this! We stand as one!
Are you gonna give me orders?
Anyways, Reynor vs. PartinG is happening, and that's not predictable because PartinG is just a weird player, man. But he's been doing really well.
PartinG is wild. I think that's the best way to describe him, right? In every single matchup. I mean, we know what he's capable of against Terran, but we've seen plenty of his weird builds in the past when he goes up against Zerg players as well. I'm expecting weird games. I'm expecting some short games as well. I think that's going to be a lot of early game action. We're going to have to keep our eyes on these probes heading out early. I think this is going to be so fun. I am favoring Reynor. I really think Reynor in general is quite good against the random silly Protoss builds that are out there. Obviously, somebody who has played an insane amount of games. On Europe, we have plenty of cannon rushes as well. They may not be as good as PartinG, but you do get somewhat familiar with these weird situations that they put you in. But I'm super hyped for this series. This is really one of my favorite series of the day. I can't wait for it.
Well, you don't have to wait, Roddy. That's like the great thing about TSL. We also just like... We're just like right into the games, man. So we'll be starting off on Everdream once it actually loads. But yeah, I do believe Reynor has had enough experience grinding his way. I'm sorry, Roddy, you do have to wait. I'm wrong. It's not just clicking. PartinG, I think, was... Actually, I'm not even sure what happened, but we are going to take a few more minutes to actually get into the correct game and talk more about what could happen. That's what I was going to say, is that I think Reynor having to fight his way through, the earlier 6,000s of the European ladders, probably faced quite a few people that can do some pretty sick cannon rushes. But what do you know what MMR he's at currently? How high up he's there?
Reynor? I feel like the last time...
69?
I think he's still above 7. And I even saw him at 7-1. Like, they all have a couple of accounts, right? And then they have their, protected account that they only play on when they feel like they're absolutely on fire and everything is perfect and they have their favorite breakfast or something. I think Reynor still has one account that's actually above 7,100. But I think most of the time he plays on an account that's slightly lower, maybe also because it's easier to find games. He's still up there, and Reynor actually, I've been chatting with him a little bit as well, because just like Serral, Reynor has also lost a few more series than he used to in the past, right? Reynor was pretty much invincible, just like Serral, when it comes to people outside of Korea, of course, that is. Just never lost, only ever lost against Serral. That's not the case anymore, but most of the losses that he's been experiencing, they did come from Terran players, and he even made a tweet a couple of days ago where he's just like, I can't beat mines anymore, help me, please, hello? Anybody out there, how do I beat Widowmine builds? I think when it comes to his ZVP, he's still feeling good. And I had a little private chat with him as well. He's like, really, I'm good right now. I've been practicing a lot. He's like, it sucks because I feel like I can't show how good I really am. And I was like, man, I worry about some people when they start taking a couple of losses. I am not worried about you, Reynor. You're going to be fine. We know how skilled and talented this young individual is. And now he's got a chance to show us that even though that ZVT is maybe a little more rocky than it used to be, the ZVP should still be where we expect it to be, and that is just world class.
It's what I expect. I did believe I put Reynor down as winning this, but I also wonder if maybe PartinG's unique brand of cheesiness will actually once again show itself as being the strongest brand of cheesiness, or even we'll even see it. Maybe he's going to play totally standard. Micro might be a little more difficult than usual playing on the NA server. Though I will say PartinG usually does play on the NA server with a lot of his pieces, so okay. Anyways, finally, we have started. No Cassacres here. Game number 1 on Everdream. The bottom left, as the red Protoss, he is PartinG.
We can already see on the top side of our screen that pylon is in the main base, and that often means that PartinG is up to no good. In the right top side of Everdream, we're looking in the main base of the Italian Zerg player representing Clash. It is Reynor.
Yeah, all right. I'm glad we got all those questions answered about if he would cheese or not. So that's an absolute yes. And now the other question of is it the strongest cheese is left to be answered. Reynor, I mean, maybe it's been a while since he's played against such players, not playing on the NA server against PartinG often, but I'm sure he has prepared for this. Overlord sees the high ground wall off, but it is a wall off. The probe can now continue building on the low ground.
actually surprised that he went for the middle pylon first when he felt like the right pylon had more surface area. Now 2 pylons will get cancelled. Now all of the drones are going to be able to make it to the low ground. That is too much surface area there, PartinG. You need to prevent those drones from getting on top of your cannon. And that's obviously a lot less surface area. That's only a single drone able to attack this cannon. And that means that this cannon is going to go up. Reynor really wants to get this probe, and I think he's going to get it.
I do.
Well done.
Yeah, I was with you, man, and it happened. I think he tried blocking out the drones in the middle patch right there, and that's why he got the initial hits like he did. But then it was already so low that a simple surround would have been able to one-shot it, which is basically what happened. All the drones survive as well. The hatchery, with only 1 cannon, and the second probe being unavailable, literally just pulled across the map now. Yeah, you can defend that hatchery.
What is interesting here is that Reynor has not taken an extractor, which means he's going to purely defend this with Zerglings, Queens, obviously maybe drones as well, and on top of that, a couple of spine crawlers. Now that cannon is obviously very close towards the high ground, which means that spine crawlers on the high ground are going to be able to attack it. It is really important for PartinG that he keeps that pylon alive, because that pylon is going to give him the high ground vision that he needs. Reynor is going to pull a couple of units to the low ground already. Zerglings and drones are going to go for that probe again as well, and that other cannon is super exposed. I really like this so far for Reynor, even though his hatchery is starting to run super low and will probably go down. But is that good enough for PartinG?
Yeah, that is a question I can't particularly answer. I feel like it's not, but Reynor obviously didn't think that was going to be the case. Didn't want it to be the case. When he realized that was just being clicked on and focus fired down, he tried to redirect his attack to the cannons and the Zealot. But there was so much spent for PartinG on this, but there's also a lot spent on the defense that was supposed to be a much better defense. For how it started, it felt like he could have had half the Lings here to actually defend it, or not even try building the spine crawlers, which I believe he did get a cancel on, so that's the good news. But in the end, he did actually lose the hatchery. Pretty sure he was building as if he wasn't, as if he was for sure going to keep that alive.
Oh! Wow, that's so cool, by the way. I was like, the biggest problem here for PartinG is that he is fully walled in. He's got no probes out on the map. Then he actually built that pylon on top of the cybernetics core, and it squeezed the probe past the cybernetics core. So that is a full wall off, but now at least he has a probe out on the map. But this probe is very important, because one base Protoss is simply no good. If this probe gets found, then obviously Reynor will know that there is nothing else out there, because he's going to check already everything with all the Zerglings he's had. Like, I still don't like this for PartinG, and I really wonder where he takes this. Is the plan a hidden expand? Is the plan a Stargate gateway all in of one base? Oh, look at all these Lings. They must see that, right? Come on, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Not quite enough to kill the probe. Yeah, it's going to kill the probe. It is.
Yep.
It has to. He's diving for it.
Okay, now I wonder, can PartinG do that one more time? Can he build a pylon on the left side of the forge, and then can he squeeze another probe through? Because this really stinks. Like, you don't really want to kill your cybercore, obviously. Okay, he's going to try it. He's in trouble. Oh, he's going to kill the forge, but I feel like you need to keep that forge alive, right? Eventually you want to get +1, no?
Yes, eventually you get +1. I'm also worried about not having a single cannon for the defense on the low ground. Reynor has really been in control of this game. Despite losing the hatchery when he probably didn't plan to, he has been able to do whatever he wants on his side of the map. I'd be afraid for PartinG even taking a natural, regardless of what he has, actually, cannon or not. But nope, no more access to cannons. Nexus finally comes down. I believe that's the 3rd Oracle?
Yeah.
On the way.
So that's kind of the way he's going to protect that natural. And obviously oracles are very sweet if it's a straightforward like Zergling flood, right? Then you're going to be able to keep your Nexus alive. But Reynor is probably going to be really annoying. He's going to have like 8 to 10 Zerglings, and he's going to dive in a couple of times, force Pulsar Beam to be activated over and over again. Now with 3 oracles, you do have quite some energy to work with, but it's not a comfortable spot to be in for PartinG. I gotta say, I really love the way that Reynor was hunting for that probe and found it, because that Nexus could have been almost done already at this point, right? Like if that probe didn't get found, it gets the Nexus up a little bit quicker, and it would have been a lot easier for PartinG to turn this into a somewhat normal game. I think Reynor did a fantastic job in buying like the additional 45 seconds for himself.
I agree. That was a nice find. As probably assuming that something had to have happened like that, or a probe even before. No, actually, that's not even possible. I guess, if he was pushed out with that pylon trick, Reynor probably assumed it was happening. The Queen certainly available in high numbers here to push back the Oracles. I'm looking at this Roach Warren, and I'm wondering, is he going to try and just get this game over with, realizing that the lead that he has, or is he actually just getting that for defensive purposes, having gotten back into the main base recently? Seems to be defensive, just continuing to drone, so a lair should be coming down soon. It's weird because all the timings are offset. But
yeah. It's just a weird game at this point because Reynor did go for that hatch first, but then he lost it, then he rebuilt it, then PartinG's Nexus is super late, but his Oracles are super early. It's just kind of an uncomfortable spot. I think for both players, maybe a little more for Reynor. PartinG is like, oh yeah, I do this every day. It's okay. The good old one-base triple Oracle opening, like I'm very familiar with it. But I still think like for Reynor, as long as you put 2 and 2 together and you have a good feel for where the Protoss economy has really been at in this game, I think you're going to start feeling all right. I like the fact that he got the early Roach one, because now he will never just randomly fall over and die against a silly gateway push. PartinG making a mistake there, activating Guardian Shield when he really didn't have to. Now he's going to get away with that because there aren't too many Zerg units, but you can see that PartinG is definitely feeling the pressure in this game.
Well, Reynor also, as you were saying, was probably a little thrown off by this. Less so the player who would make a game like this happen. He was supply blocked with those roaches he initially made, which probably should have been more and more drones. Now, really busting out the drone count, like 10 and 12 and 13. Getting that +1 missile. Hussein Phoenix is certainly very nice. Gets a pretty full scout in the main base, but the Oracle should be providing any other scout necessary. And we're going into a pretty normal game. The Forge was rebuilt in time to get a +1, not with the blink, but still on its way. And yeah, I mean, had you not seen the opener, this looks kind of normal.
I mean, we obviously know that PartinG loves his Blink Stalkers, and there are more and more Protoss players out there, especially a couple of them in the European scene that love this Blink Stalker style against Zerg. It really fell out of fashion for a long time, but it's kind of making a resurgence here lately. I don't know though, like it's all about momentum when it comes to builds like that, and of course you can never question what PartinG can make happen with a couple of force fields and a few Blink Stalkers, but it feels like it's all gonna hit a little bit later than you normally want as a Protoss player, and that means that the force fields are gonna be less impactful, because normally shaving off a couple of roaches is a really big deal. I have the feeling that by the time they truly fight, Reynor is not gonna have a couple of Zerg units, no, he's gonna have the swarm. It's going to be monstrous, the amount of Zerg units that he's going to be able to work with. And PartinG seems to be aware of that, so he's like, I'll go RoboBay, but Reynor is already ahead of that, and he's like, it's not just going to be Blink Stalkers. I'll start heading towards Aspire as well.
No matter how PartinG has tried to make this game weird, it does seem that Reynor is still a step ahead. Nice force builds, capturing quite a few lings, and PartinG's little move out with his sentries did force Reynor to temporarily take it seriously, but he's up to 75 drones, working on that 4th base. It was just a little blip, an otherwise pretty good macro game. And double upgrades as well for Baneling Ravager.
Now, I wonder what he's going to do with the Spire, right? Because on one hand you can say like, oh, Mutas are really good in this matchup and they'll keep the Protoss at the home. But it could also be for Corruptors, thinking that PartinG will most likely add Colossus here, I think. Like Disruptors I would find really surprising. Then again, you never know, but no, it is indeed going to be Colossus. So that Spire could just be for Corruptors, right?
Well, if he knows about it, it absolutely could be. Does he anticipate the Colossus follow-up, like the Robotics Bay follow-up in general, right? We're about to see in like 10 seconds. He hasn't seen it. He just saw the Robo, which is totally normal, but hasn't seen the Robotics Bay. 5th hatchery actually going to be denied here by... No? Yes? Yes, by the Oracles. And the Spire is done. No decision yet on what to make from it, so it might just be an option if he needs to, if he wants to make those mutas to surprise his opponent, or in this case...
Come on! No! Oh my god, Reynor!
Oh my god.
Reynor, you're so sick! How do you not cancel that? I love it! Oh my god, I would have canceled that hatchery 17 times, Jess. Amazing.
That I can't believe that it actually worked out. And one Oracle left alive with like very limited health can be taken out by the Corruptors if it accidentally flies past it. And that is, the choice was finally made once the hatchery was actually saved. Corruptors, something that PartinG just can't. I mean, he's going to have excellent army positioning, keeping his Colossus back when he doesn't need them, bringing them forward when they're absolutely crucial, blinking forward. We know PartinG has excellent control over both his Stalkers in PvT, as well as his general army control in PvZ. Like, I will not forget his control on Eternal Empire in that round of 16 game, right? But, man, it already feels like Reynor has him figured out, and it just matters of, like, can he get a good position here? And as we reach towards the 4th base on Everdream, That is a concave potential right there.
That's also a fair amount of sentries, I would say, right? Like, I think we're going to have a couple of force fields this game. This is, I think, why a lot of people just love PartinG, because he truly brings them back to 2012. Because, you know, if you would have told me that this is a Wings of Liberty army, I'd be like, yeah, no, I see it. It makes a lot of sense, right? It's an insane amount of Stalkers, a couple of Colossus, and then a ridiculous amount of force fields. Force fields for days. Now, obviously, since we are playing Legacy of the Void, fortunately, I would like to add, we do have corrosive balls, so obviously the fights are going to play out a little different than they did 8 years ago, but it is funny to see.
PartinG had about this many. Okay, well, this actually is really unfortunate. Nicely done by Reynor to realize that there wouldn't be a lot of Stalkers protecting them as they were chasing the Lings, but a couple were warped in, a couple Corruptors went down, but here's the engagement in the middle of the map where it's easily force fieldable, easy peasy. It's scary when Reynor gets on the other side of those rocks. That's when PartinG really has to have those good force fields that we know he can do, and he certainly has plenty of energy for.
Yeah, Reynor is maxed out, and I think with this is the kind of army that the moment you max out, the Corruptors could have killed the Oracle there, by the way. I think that would have been a nice pickup, but this is the kind of army for Reynor when it's maxed out. It makes no sense to stay maxed out, right? You want to get some trades going. Reynor's got an insane economy, which means that if PartinG maxes out as well, his army is actually going to be bigger because Reynor's got 20 additional workers. So here we go. Reynor wants to fight. Reynor needs to fight. The force fields so far are good, yes, but will they stay good? Seems like the answer is yes for now.
Yes, absolutely. Nothing really got by. I mean, even when the Banelings almost were ready to get by those force fields, there was another round ready to go, and the Stalkers already blinked back. The Colossus still alive as well. They don't do extra bonus to those Banelings, but they do certainly help take them out. Now, moving on to Creep is going to be really dangerous, but finding himself in that nice little position, the little, like, forest to the left side working well for him, even blinking forward, PartinG feels like he has absolute control right now.
PartinG is so confident with his army. Like, I would get so nervous being where he is at. Like, it's a lot of Stalkers, it's a lot of Sentries and 2 Colossus, that's it. But so far, the army control is absolutely impeccable. Now, Banelings will come in from the left side, but those force fields are good as well. PartinG, you stick individual. He blinks forward. He's getting an amazing fight so far, but eventually, this is supposed to get hard for him, right?
I mean, is it? Like, he is running out of force fields almost, but he still has so many Stalkers left over. A Colossus still lives with the last Corruptor going down to the Blink Stalkers. PartinG up 30 supply, and it felt like he didn't even really lose supply. Like, only one reinforcement has really come in here. He just has taken such efficient trades.
He is so good with this army. He is so freaking good. It's unbelievable. Barely lost a unit. A few more Banelings will finish up on the top side. But PartinG seems like he's got the job done in game 1 on Everdream. Yeah, that's just almost leaves me speechless. And it would be kind of bad because I know that we are supposed to be here and talk about these games. It's not supposed to be that easy. He makes it look so easy. And he's playing from Korea as well on the American server. Like, you're supposed to mess up your force fields once, okay? Or the blink is supposed to be a little bit late. Or you're supposed to be caught out of position. It's unreal how good he is with those units. Sick.
Ah, boy. That's what we saw, though, in his GSL, for sure, in an also very easily concavable area for the Zerg. I will say, PartinG absolutely was just, like, he's, like, monster moding right now in general, and that was a really good showing of confidence and correct control. But I will say, for, like, Reynor's sake, and the whole people might be saying, like, oh, are we back to, Death Ball? I don't know. I feel like Reynor, the way his army was positioned, funneling through that one choke in the middle, right? It did feel like he never got the best opportunity for a surround, right? Which I think if it's a surround with PartinG more on the defensive, I think that's when we start seeing the missteps, the micro mistakes because of the ping, to what you were talking about. But PartinG actually was able to just be like, okay, size it up, be force field. Okay, size it up, force field. The last couple of force fields, though, the ones around the third base, I can't discredit those. Those were actually just really good.
On both sides as well, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously using the Colossus as well whenever he wants to break them. He's like, okay, now actually these force fields got the job done. Now I can move the Colossus forward because I want to get closer towards that army where I do want to fight it, and I'll make sure that the rest of your units will still not participate in the battle. I mean, I like almost every decision that Reynor made in that game. The only thing I felt is that he could have maybe started to push the fight a little bit earlier when he was maxed out, because there is no sense in letting PartinG catch up in army supply, because I feel like he maybe waited. Then again, with the rocks still up in the middle of the map, it's like, where do you take that fight? Where do you force that fight? He could have made, like, I understand as well, it's scary for Reynor to really set up like, okay, I'm going to go for the insane surround where I have units coming through the middle, towards the top, and towards the bottom side there in the center of Everdream. but then it's also like your units are so far away from each other, and with the amount of blink stalkers that PartinG has, then PartinG can actually just blink forward towards one side as well and just force the fight there. So I guess it's difficult, but I'm really impressed with PartinG. Like, I don't even think that was necessarily bad or poor by Reynor. I'm just impressed by PartinG.
Me too. He plays with units that are usually so fragile that we never see anyone try, or if they try, they fail, honestly. Like, even going back to the first, it wasn't a real push out, right? But they were chasing down an overseer. Like, that's when Reynor stopped going up to 75 drones. He took a little like pit stop there because he was like, well, your sentries are out here too, so you must be pushing, right? And no, he actually just pulled back. But it was like these other tiny things that happened alongside this game. Of course, starting off with a cannon rush, it was already a weird game. But that just meant that Reynor didn't max out maybe as fast as he could have, which really would have brought it to PartinG before he had all that force split energy and all those stalkers. Ugh. I'm just so amazed. Yeah. I'm running out of breath here. PartinG just excellent control over his EVP is what it was.
Yeah, you can truly see the confidence that he has in that army. I look at that army and I'm like, that's a bad army, you know? At least that's what I'm feeling, because I know that if I would have that army, I'd be like, I'm going to mess this up, and Banelings are going to collapse into my 13 sentries, and over 1,000 gas will go up in vain, and then my stalkers are going to get surrounded by Zerglings, and the Corruptors kill the Colossus. But PartinG, it just feels like he's like, no, this is actually the ultimate army. Like, we don't need Storm, we don't need Disruptors. Carriers, don't even start. Give me sentries and stalkers, and that's when I'm in the groove. I loved it. Really fun first game. Let's see what game 2 has in store for us as we have loaded into Simulacrum. Now on the left top side, we're looking at main base of the Italian Zerg player. He's down 0-1. It is Reynor.
In the bottom right, as the red Protoss, we do have PartinG. I mean, being down into the lower bracket, I was like, well, maybe PartinG is just, really performing well for GSL, but maybe it was just a different matchup. Like, it was PvP, right, that brought him down here, and that's always a bit questionable when it comes to cross-server and just in general, where that matchup can be so volatile. And Mana just actually being particularly good at PvP right now.
Yep, don't forget what happened the next round, right, for Mana. It wasn't just that Mana got one victory, he was also able to send Showtime towards that lower bracket. Now we have PartinG once again. He's up to no good. At first I was like, pylon on the high ground and a gate? But it's like, gate, and then it's the forge. So this feels a little bit more like the proxy robo, right? Where obviously he wants to get a quicker cybernetics core, and then he wants to get a robotics facility. So we can see PartinG fly around with a warp prism and a couple of immortals and shield batteries. It's obviously going to be really important for Reynor that he's aware of this as quickly as possible. This probe is up to no good. At this point, Reynor's like, is he faking it? But you should know, when it's PartinG, he's probably not faking it.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume it's a fake, against PartinG. But if it is a fake and he pulls all of his drones, that also really does hurt. But now, if it wasn't clear with his first 2 pylons, it's clear with all 4 blocking out access to cannons. Look how much room PartinG has to do whatever he wants. Shield batteries, robo, cannons, and the probe is totally protected.
And this game, Reynor does have an extractor, but he kind of stopped mining gas. I like that PartinG cancel that pylon on the left side and then just rebuild a different pylon. This is going to allow him to still get that probe out there eventually as well. And also just keeps him extra safe. I mean, this hatchery is super dead. There is just no way that Reynor is going to be able to break this. And this obviously will not stop, guys. At these cannons and these batteries, we are going to get a robotics facility eventually. Do you think that where would he build that robo?
I actually thought he was going to build it in all the space he had back there, but I guess not. So
no, it's Stargate at home. He's just all right with this. He's like, no, I'm actually fine. Reynor seems like he thinks about, no, Reynor, you cannot fight this. Really, you got to give up, mate.
Shield battery's finishing. No way.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way you break this. Maybe he wants to get all the pylons. Maybe that's his plan.
So, all right. So not going for the robo. That is something that Reynor can see. If you're going to go for a robo, it is always with the proxy. You don't bring it away from across the map with a warp prism and immortal crab walking no way forward. So Reynor's got to be going through all the other things that could happen, and you would, if it's not a robo, get that out of your mind. It's definitely going to be a Twilight Council, I would say. Is his mind thinking towards that Stargate? Is he even aware of that potential, because we are just talking about how he handles the game from now on. The hatchery is dead. That was a chance that was not going to actually work out. Now, what does he plan against someone who, when you get rid of all the possibilities and you end up on Stargate, what do you do against that?
Well, the thing is, Reynor can't do much. There's no way that he can bust a one-base parting with a Stargate. That's just one of the most safe setups you can possibly imagine as a Protoss player. So he's going to be forced to macro. But now the downside is, once again, parting used that little trick to squeeze a probe to the low ground. The problem now with trying to macro from here is that a lot of the drones that he's going to produce from the main base, they're going to have to take quite some time before they start mining from that third base, basically, that's in the middle of the map. And this will also allow the Oracle to get a couple of pickups. I am not feeling this game for Reynor. Like last game, I really didn't mind the start that much because it didn't take that long and he immediately rebuilt that hatchery. This game, I feel like it's a lot worse for Reynor.
Speed is about to kick in.
Gets the cancel here. That could be cool, but he really wants to get it. No, he's not going to get it.
Oh, no, he's not going to get it.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my gosh. Serious revenge for that Oracle on top of the fourth base. Which PartinG ended up winning that game anyways. Spinecrawler going to go down here. It will finally clean up all these natural cannons and shield batteries, but as what you were talking about, yeah, the drones are just going to be so vulnerable on their transit or just simply not as efficient as they should be. And Reynor, I mean, he does get a full scout, but I mean, he might even lose the Overlord, so no second scout here. Oh no.
That really stings as well, because indeed now the only thing he knows is that there is an Oracle, but there are still so many different follow-ups here for PartinG. I'm a bit surprised to see an evolution chamber being built right now in the back of Reynor's main base. Gives me the feeling that he maybe wants to go for +1 links, but this to me doesn't feel like a game where you ever want to start off with +1 melee, right? With the timings being so off, with triple Oracle being out already, like how efficient can a +1 melee opening really be here?
Well, I'm totally with you. I just feel like for someone like Reynor, who has, you know, still, even if he's all around a good player, really made his mark with Lings, like he's probably thinking about just controlling the game in some way and forcing PartinG to respond to him a little bit more. Obviously, Oracles do eventually run out of energy, and okay, just snipe one, thankfully, because he did lose quite a bit defending that third base, but that's where I'm coming from. I think Reynor's going to think, okay, control the game, deny third bases, see a Stargate, so I'm going to maybe assume third base, and not just play defensive, because that's also where PartinG is also going to thrive. But I do think, in general, PartinG is in the better position.
Yeah. It was a bit of a shame, because PartinG actually displayed some great micro with his Oracles early on. It's a shame that he kind of went AFK and he ended up losing one of them in the end. He did such a good job in keeping it alive. The Lings are successful for now, picking up that first probe that was thinking of going up to 3 bases very quickly. So this is kind of nice for Reynor. He's buying himself some time. He's trying to squeeze out more and more workers as well. Maybe Reynor can prove me wrong. I mean, the +1 is halfway done. He's going to get the Roach one as well. I think the idea eventually is to fire up +2 immediately as well, right? Kind of line that up. And then obviously we know what Banelings with +2 are capable of. One-shotting probes, that is. Maybe that's the game plan here?
I think so. I think ultimately, whether it's the Lings in the ground right now with +1 or Banelings in the future with +2, the idea is to bring it to PartinG a little bit more than last game, where he was probably in an okay position despite losing that hatchery, right? Like PartinG also put a lot into it. We thought it was actually a good position, but ended up losing perhaps because he was too passive. And Reynor, more aggressive, I always just say, is more good. All right, guys? Like, Reynor being aggressive is where I imagine him to be at his best form. So I'm glad to see him bulking up some Lings, ready to dart in, given a chance. PartinG doing his thing, once again with Blink. And +1 this time, like, really well timed out. That's too many sentries. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if +1 was ready already, but we had a cannon and a battery finishing up as well, right? So by the time that the force fields expire, you're going to have that cannon and battery participating in the fight, and that's obviously not a fight that Lings ever want to take. I'm just worried for Reynor, because after what I saw happened last game, where I felt the start was actually not that bad, and felt that Reynor was capable of getting where he wanted to be, PartinG was still able to get such a dominant victory in the end. I'm just like, uh-oh. We're heading there again, but this time PartinG is in a better spot than he was last game. These Oracles are getting some decent work done as well. He saves both of them while they're incredibly low on HP and recalls them home. I love it.
Last time he kind of moved out, but didn't really do anything with his sentries and stalkers in the middle of the map. +1 wasn't done because of the odd forge timing. This time, with them both lining up, with the War Prism on the way, with all the gateways finishing up, I don't know, all these things point to a PartinG who's going to be ready on the map. That's going to be a bit dangerous, but so was last game. Like, all of our credit to PartinG was how he was playing with dangerous unit types against a dangerous Zerg who could actually jump on you, and he still did it fine. So I'm sure he's thinking about getting rid of some of this creep spread, which is getting a little crazy in the middle of the map.
Yeah, obviously great job there by Reynor. Once again, weird start, but is still able to get a couple of things going that you normally would love to see him get going in games like this. The Baneling Nest felt a little bit late, and this obviously means that Baneling speed is nowhere near done. For slow Banelings to get good connections, well, on creep, maybe. Off creep, I don't think there is a chance ever that you're gonna get good connections there against someone like PartinG. PartinG is at 57 workers, but he's starting to get really aggressive here. I do think even for PartinG, it's gonna be really awkward to get up this ramp. I mean, yeah, this ramp can go two ways, right? It's great for force fields and keeping your units safe, but I also think it's really hard to ever apply some real pressure to Reynor.
Yeah, which is giving him time to build up, hopefully, a Baneling count for his sake, although he is just maxing out mostly on those Lings right now, waiting for those upgrades. And I'm with you. I thought PartinG was going to be a little more just like take what he can type engagements, stay around the creep spread, but he actually almost was totally prepared to run up that ramp until he saw Ravagers were actually already done. So Reynor defending with just that. I mean, he was already at 75 drones, so it really was his time to start producing units. The scary thing was that Baneling speed was pretty far off, but that should also finish before any engagement really comes down, unless Reynor sees an opportunity. But remember those force fields, man.
Yeah, on creep. Oh, there is a little hole this time. Baneling's actually coming in from the right side as well, getting a couple of connections. This went much better for Reynor than I think it went in the previous game. In the end, PartinG will be able to save the majority of his stalkers, but he has already lost 7 sentries in this game, and I feel like that's way more than he lost in the entirety of Everdream.
Right, yeah. But that's the exact type of engagement I was trying to imagine, theorize about last time, was that, if PartinG was the one who was not able to control the game, if he wasn't just sizing everything up and getting a couple of seconds of preparation, those force fields are supposed to look worse, especially with any ping issues that he might be happening. So that was what Reynor was hoping for last game. Finally found it here, getting into 2 different locations, at least trying to, but that north side blocked out by a single force field. We're down to nothing but stalkers, really.
Yeah, that's actually a problem. Oh, that's a lot of Banelings coming in from the left side. These stalkers can tank a little bit. I felt this was a very questionable fight by Reynor at first, but I was like, well, if there are no more sentries, then maybe. But yeah, that far off creep, basically into static defenses as well. So we have cannons on the top and on the bottom side there. I don't know. I feel like Reynor got a little carried away there. The Spire is done, and I really hope he doesn't start building Corruptus, because he actually starts +1 flyer attacks. Okay, as we do still have a fight as well. I think this is a top fight for Stalkers, because Lynx, Roaches, Ravagers on creep. This should be good enough for Reynor in the end, even against PartinG. Disrupted.
I mean, the Banelings are going to connect, unfortunately for him, so he's still going to lose out here. But I was uh-ohing because PartinG, once again, dangerously on creep. This time, not with force fields, not with that big of an army, and also he didn't have any of his upgrades. It was actually 2-1 against just 1, with +2 finishing in 12 seconds. So that was not the best time, on top of already being in general a dangerous idea. So he is forced to retreat back. Disruptor has been revealed, but he is going to move on to Colossus. Reynor has the ability to once again make those Corruptors.
Yep. That was just, I guess, a kind of a panic or a safety disruptor, right? Almost a desperation. It's like, just in case he gets too carried away and I really need one big shot, I have it. And obviously disruptors build very quickly and they don't need an upgrade like Thermal Lens. So that's kind of nice. The moment you have it, it can have its fullest potential immediately. Kind of a surprising series so far, right? Because I feel like in the first game, Reynor was in a really sweet spot. And then in the end, PartinG just managed to make magic happen. This game, I felt like it was quite a bit worse for Reynor, but this time Reynor just got much better fights. Could have something to do with the map as well. And now I'm actually starting to get very worried for PartinG. I mean, he's down 24 workers. And then on top of that, he's not really creating the ultimate Protoss army, right? It's still, yeah, with great micro, you can get some good potential out of it. But this is not the dream army. Even if your name is PartinG, it shouldn't be the dream army. I have no idea how he's going to turn this one around.
You can't just replace 10 sentries, right? Like, if you replace 10 sentries, you're not getting Colossus, right? So it's not the perfect army. You're absolutely right about that, but even more so than what we'd expect. Stalker, Sentry, Colossus, not generally what we think of the perfect army as, but it was pretty good last game. This game doesn't even have sentries. So that's really questionable. And Reynor taking the time here, bullying PartinG back on 3 bases. Difficult to go down that ramp to get a 4th base. To go into potentially Broodlords. He's got a Spire, he's got a Hive about to finish. And yeah, he's bullying the army back. PartinG actually steps out and immediately regrets it. Oh, those Banelings got really close to Colossus. Okay, they are going to be saved. That was kind of scary.
I mean, you said you don't replace 10 sentries. PartinG is like, no, I do. I'm going to make 10 more sentries. But it obviously means he doesn't have any Archons. His Banelings come in from every angle. Reynor was waiting for that, and he finally gets it in the end. Well done. Those are connections you normally expect to see when somebody has like 40 plus Banelings or something, as Reynor made 37 Banelings right before that fight took place. And we're all tied up. I mean, like I said before, very surprising how these games have turned out so far. Game 1, I felt Reynor had everything he wanted. PartinG won. Game 2, I was very worried for Reynor, but this time Reynor just got much better fights with the Banes.
For my perspective here, it just looks like it's all about the engagements, right? In the games where the force fields come down perfectly, and I do mean perfectly, PartinG wins the engagements. But in the games where he has to last second force field is where Reynor finds more than he did in the first game, at least. In this game, game-winning maneuvers probably. But for the other games, I'm going to guess that he's going to catch like 2 sentries, 3 stalkers type of thing, and it'll be more of a trade. But we are at drastic differences. First game for me, all the fights went perfectly for PartinG. Great force fields. Second game for me, his force fields weren't perfect. He actually got collapsed in on in the first move out, and of course that last fight was a disaster.
Maybe he didn't expect Reynor to be so adventurous with Banelings when they didn't have speed yet, but if you're on creep, slow Banelings is still quite alright. And once again, Simulacrum is pretty wide open in the center of the map, right? Like Everdream, there are moments where Banelings can get good fights, but in general it's a little bit easier for Protoss to get those quote-unquote perfect force fields. In Simulacrum in the center, well, you're gonna need like 17 force fields to get a perfect set of force fields there. So I love that Reynor was decisive, that he didn't second guess himself. He could have looked at that army and be like, oh no, I should really wait for Baneling speed. He's like, nope, on creep, I think I can do it. And there wasn't much of a gap, but Banelings, they're not the biggest units. They don't need a big gap. And once I feel like it's a bit of a domino effect, right? Like if the first sentries start falling, all of them fall because they're supposed to keep each other alive, and then they all gather up more energy. So I'm happy at least that it's not a 2-0 yet, but we're all tied up, and we'll get more of these memes because that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the first 2 games starting off with 2 different types of cannon rushes with 2 different results, and 2 different results is in like one apiece, man. Like cannon rushing is not going to be the weakness or the strength for PartinG, but it seems like he likes how it starts the game off. Actually, the only thing we haven't seen so far, please let it happen, are the immortal micro moves, right? We thought that was going to be last game, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I really thought that was the game plan, because he opened up with the gateway, and I was like, all right. But when I saw where he started building cannons, I was like, well, it's hard. He had a space for the robo, but then the robo would be very vulnerable from just high ground attacks. And I was like, this could get very awkward. Anyway, maybe we'll see it at least once in this series. It seems like we're probably not going to see it this game, as we've loaded into Eternal Empire on the right top side. We're looking main base with the Protoss on fire. It is PartinG.
In the bottom left, as the blue Zerg, he is Reynor. Ah, well.
Yeah, standard. We're gonna get a normal game, and I'm okay with that as well. Like, I like cannons, but I don't need to see it 4 or 5 times in a row. I would like to see how a absolutely normal standard game looks between these 2 as well.
I think that's what, if we saw, I was anticipating Reynor's victories more so. Just like the ping is something we have to always consider, even though it's like, we shouldn't focus so much on it, but something we always have to consider, right? I don't know, with obviously micro being quite important with the probe micro in the early game for cannon rushing, I'm actually a lot more worried for those force fields the longer the game goes, which again is just credit due in that first game when they were all pretty perfect. So that's where I thought Reynor was going to do very well. I mean, he's in his element, doing his thing, getting up to 70 drones, and just taking time to set up those surrounds. So that's how it goes for this macro game, so be it. But PartinG has definitely shown that he has a style that works for him a lot of the time. Didn't last game, but it was that one gap probably you were talking about, that domino effect. That not only domino effect had killed all the sentries, but also made him, be reserved on 3 bases, get a disruptor before Colossus, and that ideally set up the game. So we'll see what happens. Eternal Empire, a lot of macro games happen on this one. Like straight up 3 base, 4 base. And PartinG has actually been going for macro games despite his starts.
I think Reynor did look very good when it comes to his own macro department, right? I think Reynor has always been excellent in figuring out how many drones he needs in a certain phase of the game or how many he can get away with. And if he does feel like he's got the freedom, he's not somebody who's like, wow, I just made a big round of drones. He should probably make some units now to be safe. Like, I really like how it's just straight to the goal, 80 plus drones. And that's just something that, you see from Zerg players that are in shape, that are confident. They know what's going on, and they know what they can get away with. And I think especially macro-wise so far, Reynor has absolutely looked on point. What is it, Jess?
Well, I was like, the 2 base attacks haven't really happened so far, right? It's either 1 base with cannon rushes or 3 base attacks. Well, we finally have a 2 base attack. 2 guys out of gas in the main base, Twilight Council being thrown down. I guess it's going to be the Adepts that have been giving some problems to Zerg players and just how flexible they are. They always seem to do something even if you're well prepared for them.
Yeah, because most of the time when you're well prepared, it means you've built a lot of units. Then the economy is already like somewhat weak. And then Protoss players are very good as well in figuring out like, okay, should we go for the big shade? Or shall we just split off 2 Adepts towards the natural, 2 Adepts towards the third? And if we then kill 6 to 8 drones with the amount of units you've already produced, that means that your economy is quite a bit weaker than it's supposed to be in this phase in the game. And they'll be okay with it. We obviously know that PartinG, his multitasking is great. His decision making is normally very good. The scouting of Reynor should be fine here because he's got Overlord speed. So he's going to get a good scout in the main base. He will see the robotics facility. We'll see the Twilight Council. We'll see the gateways. Also sees that there is not too much gas being mined. So it makes it a lot less likely that this would ever be an Archon opening, right?
Right, yeah. We do sometimes see players go for that follow-up Dark Shrine, which I definitely wouldn't say PartinG's not a guy that does that. Mana does that a lot, actually. But with still no Dark Shrine and a presence of a all-seeing Overlord, I don't think it's really going to be in the cards. So it is more just about the flexibility, all that talk about what Adepts can do even when they're fully scouted. Well, they are absolutely fully scouted, and Reynor still has to show us how he deals with Adepts.
Seems like it's going to be Roach Ling. I was kind of wondering, I want to ask you as well, what do you think is like the ideal drone count for a Zerg player to defend this stuff?
What I've seen is 42 drones, and then we actually, Solar was building a spine crawler and a spore every time he saw this. So maybe that.
Well, at this point, PartinG already has more workers, so he really doesn't have to do something super crazy. These Adepts can absolutely fight the Queens here, because the Roach is not here yet. The Lings are not in position as well, but this also means that these Adepts are going to have to shade away, I wanted to say, because the Zerglings came as well. But he's like, nope, I'm off creep, I'm near my War Prism. And that turned out to be a really good decision, because Reynor had a lot of Zerglings banked up defensively. I think that you guys, or I don't know who was talking about this last week. I think it was you and Wardy talking about how DRG likes to defend against this kind of stuff with just an insane amount of Zerglings and Roaches. And it seems like Reynor is taking a small note out of that playbook, but I don't know about this though. Like, he's down 7 workers at this point. Sure, Reynor's army is big. You can say maybe eventually he can counterattack, but I don't really like this right now for Reynor.
Well, the counter here is going to be pretty nice. It's going to get a cancel on a pretty fresh Nexus, but still pretty good. The Roaches and the Queens will be able to hold the Adepts if they're not shading. And that's always what's so tricky about the Adepts. Like, the Lings aren't there to tackle all the Adepts, because they will die if it is only Lings. They're there to, keep them in place. But, if the Adepts aren't really shading through anyways, they're being kept in place by PartinG's decision-making, then send the Lings across the map, and now we have a significant delay on that third Nexus. So you're totally right to talk about the drone count being very uncomfortable for Zergs. But, and I actually would have been totally on board if Reynor had just started pumping drones, but he's actually going to just continue pumping units and getting 2 spine crawlers, so I guess he's going to do an attack. Really, this is nice as well,
actually. Getting that Stalker kill in the natural means obviously that PartinG is going to bring some of his units home. At this point, PartinG doesn't really have, I want to say, a proper idea of how many units Reynor has been making, but he does have an observer floating around as well. And now Reynor finally is like, all right, we'll go back into droning. Maybe this is all about denying that base and then also making sure that PartinG actually wanted to expand. Because we've also seen Protoss players pretend to expand and then just warp in way more units with their warp prism.
Right. Yeah, I think you're spot on with that one. He got into the natural, he saw, not that many units being made, no immortals already ready type of thing, and just was like, oh, okay, time the drone. But, I mean, that was a significant delay. He absolutely could have been droning faster, but PartinG, did have that third Nexus significantly delayed as well. So I get kind of tit for tat, and now he has an army that he can build off of in, a couple more drones here, as he also grabs a fourth base, and constant run-by potential with these Lings. They don't have upgrades, but they are constantly keeping tabs on PartinG.
I mean, this is an army that's very good against Zerglings. Not only is there a lot of force fields, or are there a lot of force fields available, you still have all those adepts that are alive as well. So this is kind of funny. This kind of felt like the fight that was always supposed to happen, but never really happened. As PartinG never truly committed with the adepts, and Reynor never truly committed to the fight against the adepts. PartinG got a couple of queen kills, and that's obviously nice. You can maybe say that the creep is going to be slightly, slower than it normally is in games like this. PartinG's army feels strong, though, and it's important for Reynor that he gets a couple of Ravages. He's got 5 of them already. That's a pretty good count, actually. Even working with double Evo, Reynor setting up a big Zergling counterattack. There are 2 cannons and a battery there, so I'm not sure. Reynor might be needing those units at home.
Yeah, I think he has to go with the fourth base. Like, he is so close to having a big burst of units here. He just made a bunch of Overlords to build for Roaches, but he's not there yet. And the army's already here, and it is looking quite intimidating. Immediately, the queen's going down. It looks like he will try to defend this fourth base, but Lings being home or not, I don't think he has enough.
And once again, this is an army that's very difficult to fight for the Zerglings, right? Because all the Adepts are still alive, and the Adepts can absolutely shred those Lings to pieces. Those forces were obviously very good, because PartinG barely lost anything, and he was able to take out the majority of the queens there. And those queens were the ones with all the energy as well. So this means that the creep that's already not spectacular in this game is really not going to go anywhere on that right side. I'm actually surprised that PartinG decided to disengage. I felt like he could have maybe gotten slightly more done there than he did.
I agree with you, but he was probably thinking like upgrades could be finishing right this second, Banelings could be finishing right this second. If there are 40 Lings hidden somewhere he can't see that have +1, then he would regret moving in, but we are the ones with the all-seeing vision here, not PartinG. So being pretty reserved, pulling back. I mean, he had the economy to do that and not be in a terrible position, right? And ideally, he also manages to grab a fourth base before things get really out of hand in terms of Reynor, maxing out and taking control of the game. But yeah, I thought he could have done more. I thought that fourth base was for sure going to be a kill, snipe, get out of there. But left alive, Reynor now goes to a fifth base.
Especially after he got the queen so quickly, and one of the Ravages as well. Reynor gets a kill on that Nexus. Not even a cancel, guys. That's a kill. And that's obviously pretty big as well. PartinG is still hovering around 150 supply. Can't really afford to lose stuff that cost 400 minerals. I think it's so funny to see PartinG heading into this composition almost every single game. So when you compare him to the European Protosses, there are a couple of them that like Colossus. I think of like Real, Verdi. But, the majority of like the top EU dogs, they're not that big of a fan of the Colossus. They even like to meme about it. Every single time I make Colossus, I lose. PartinG is just a massive believer in, the Wings of Liberty Star. It doesn't get a lot of love in the European scene, but PartinG is giving it all the love.
Oh, he is a little disjointed on that army. Stalkers are pretty mobile, but they are pretty far away. I don't know if they're that mobile, and they're dealing with the fourth Nexus right now. A couple force fields will buy time, despite having as many corrosive biles as necessary.
That's another kill, by the way. He got a second kill on the Nexus, so that's 800 minerals. Obviously, this one wasn't for free. A lot of Zerglings went down, but that's okay. Reynor is maxed out. It's completely acceptable with you losing Zerglings if you're able to delay bases, or better, even kill bases. So I think that was a fantastic sequence of events for Reynor. Not once, but twice getting the kill. He's like, hey, maybe I can get it one more time. It's like, no. This time PartinG probably has a few too many units in position, but really well done by Reynor.
Reynor certainly has control. PartinG's trying to get something back here, killing some creep spread. He was trying to get the War Prism out in the map, and that's what actually scouted the army, but looks like it took quite a few shots. 2-2 will be done on these Lings and Banelings, of course, for that Baneling probe dynamic, whereas PartinG is maybe going to get the 2-1. He's forced to recall out here. The loss of maybe 5-6 Stalkers. These die as well. Oh, good blink down.
One of them
certainly has the map. Oh.
I didn't even know that was possible to be stuck there. Today I learned.
I guess he was safe from Lings.
This is that moment, though, where once again, PartinG's army is quite a bit bigger. We're working with 135 supply for PartinG against the 112 for Reynor. And Reynor is maxed out. That's because Reynor has like 20 more-ish workers.
Oh, wow.
If Reynor wins a fight here, that's obviously game-ending because he's got that massive economy. He can immediately replace the units he will lose as well. But it is going to be hard, I think, for Reynor to win the fight. With the units that he's currently working with, as these Lings are starting to do some serious damage to these bases and cannons. I do get a little nervous, right, when Reynor is sitting on that massive bank, because I'm afraid that the fight that eventually happens is not just going to be okay for PartinG, but it could be really, really good. And then, yeah, sure, you can remax, but is that going to save the day?
Right. If there's still the entire Protoss army left, your remax is not going to be good enough, barreling down your production lines. But Reynor does have control over the map. He's been keeping tabs on the army, so he has a surround set up. He's brought in every single unit back home, but actually the Bailings to the left side not going to be joining in, at least immediately. That actually might end up being a good thing, as the force fields are depleted. They have so many force fields, though. Oh my god, he's got a full arc of force fields in one of the biggest spaces on this map, and he still has more force fields.
Yeah, way more force field. I feel like we've seen this before from PartinG on that exact spot. This man is so freaking good with sentries and stalkers. He's not done yet, but so far so good. Those corrosive vials were juicy though. They landed in the middle of the pack. A couple of sentries did go down. Reynor is forced to evacuate this base, but if you give up this base, you kind of give up your fourth base as well. Reynor needs a good fight. He's got Bailings on the top side. They are not coming to flank. I would love to see a couple of Bailings coming in from that ramp on the right top side of our screen.
I think he knows that PartinG knows that's going to be possible, so he's really trying to deplete the force field energy before actually collapsing in, and here it comes now. Most of the force fields are now being used. The Corruptors on top of the Colossus as well, and the Banelings do slip through at the last second. Lots of connections going into the heart of that army. Mostly Ravagers left over, but is the Remax going to be good enough? Reynor doesn't actually have that much Larva. That actually might be the biggest problem here. It's a lot of Stalkers left over with good upgrades. But ooh, those Lings.
Okay. I think it's okay. That's a lot of
He's going to push this back.
Yep.
Yes,
he got the Warp Prism as well, right? He got the Warp Prism, and that means that this Protoss army is not growing anymore. Lings on creep are excellent against Stalkers, especially since a lot of them have already been bruised from before. That got really close. That got really dicey, but in the end, Reynor just barely had enough. And now, obviously, that big bank that we were talking about before, it will really come into play. Hive Tech is ready. I wouldn't mind a Viper or two, right? If like Colossus are the units that are supposed to keep PartinG safe, even though he doesn't have any right now, I think Vipers are excellent.
Yeah, these are about to be cracklings on top of very little splash damage. He's replacing the sentries, trying to get to a Colossus, but they are not full energy sentries. They have 5 force fields, and that's going to be it against the basically maxed out Zerg army. That's also going to have even better upgrades as time goes on. Breaking through the force fields, breaking into PartinG's 3rd and 4th base. Probes are going to go down on both sides. Stalkers, they can't do very much about this. They're going to get hit by Banelings, Corrosive Vial, and those super upgraded Lings.
That Reynor macro really showing in this game during all of this. We do have Ultras on the way now as well with Kindness plating those Bailings. So it's kind of like, yeah. And now what? We've already killed all the probes. There's nothing left to kill anymore. So in the end, they will go down. I love the way that Reynor played this. And I love what you said about those Bailings that were not participating in the big fight we saw before. I actually think that was on purpose. I think you're spot on. Reynor's like, if I send him in right now, the force fields are going to be there because this is PartinG. I'm going to wait until he starts running out of force field energy, and then those Banelings coming in from the back, connecting with the middle of the army. It was just brilliant by Reynor.
I have no doubt that Reynor has kind of had to readjust how he takes engagements against PartinG style compared to those usual moments where it's all about the surround and the go, right? This one was a lot more like stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. And it worked out really well. Reynor adapting to PartinG's engagement specifically very well, and now the macro should be able to carry him through. To PartinG's credit, he's kept 4 bases, but his army doesn't look so hot, and upgrades looking less hot.
Look at the minimap. Reynor is just taking bases everywhere. He's even taking the base at 3 o'clock. Like, when do you ever see a Zerg take this base? That is under PartinG's natural. That's a bad sign for PartinG.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't take the obvious one right below it. He took this one almost like a sign of dominance.
I think it's blocked by a creep tumor.
Oh, that too. That too. All the upgrades are kicking in here. +3 in Adrenal Glands for the Lings. They get to surround this bye-bye literally anything. Buildings, Colossus, Stalkers, and Ultras. I mean, it's kind of funny seeing Ultras in late games EVP, but carried by so many Lings and Banelings. Even some Fungals could be going down here as we have Infestors. Oh, the Banelings from the right side again, just like last game. PartinG thinks he could control and micro his way through a battle, but not if you're completely surrounded.
I love the way that Reynor did this. The random fungo as well, connecting with a couple of these stalkers. It's still a bit hard to find into all these cannons and batteries, and there is no need for Reynor to take that risk. Oh, I lost Zerglings? Let's build 92 additional Zerglings because I can. I've got the money for it. PartinG is sort of chasing his army, thinking like maybe he's running out of steam. That's kind of what you hope as a Protoss, right? Like maybe the Zerg wasn't that rich, but then deep down inside, you know, he's like, no, he was that rich. He's already remaxed, isn't he? Yes, PartinG, he is.
Yeah. Unless you had a Warp Prism across the map dealing damage, you know just how screwed you are in terms of the remax. Maybe if you take perfect fights, you still have that fighting chance, but as good as PartinG is making his army look for the desperate situation, it is just too desperate. It is just not going to be enough. PartinG, his style may be a little more figured out now by Reynor. Is not yet ready to tap out of this game and head into game number 4. He still has plenty of chances, I would say, to come back and get a match point as well, but he doesn't want to give up this game, man. He's like, sub 100 supply, I still got this.
I mean, it's tournament live on the line. Obviously, in this best of 5, this is already a lower bracket, so I get it. And this has been a pretty chaotic game, so you still have hope that maybe the Zerg is actually at 150 supply and that broke is a joke. And then it's like, okay, I just need the Zerg to take one really bad fight. But I think PartinG kind of knows that he's in a lot of trouble and that he's going to need a miracle to win this game. And probably a miracle is not even going to do it, as Reynor is once again coming in from the top with a ridiculous amount of banelings. Good luck force fielding this. There are no sentries anyway. GG gets called. Reynor takes the 2-1 lead in a series that's definitely living up to the expectations, if you ask me. Like, I'm really enjoying these games. I find them fun, and I find it hard to predict where it's actually going as well.
The fights are amazing to cast and to watch, right? Because, I mean, they're so control-focused. You really got to give credit to the players, and then they're also just explosive. You think someone's going to win, and then suddenly 20 banelings come from the right side or the north side, and you're like, no, wait! That is sick StarCraft right there. But I do really wonder if Reynor just simply has a better handle on PartinG's style. PartinG maybe getting away with a couple of victories using that Stalker Colossus Sentry thing because people are like, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to be good. Let me just go ahead and collapse in on this. Well, Reynor is no longer just collapsing in. He's actually playing it really smart.
What I love as well is just, like, I always take a look at the worker graph and the economic graph after a game ends. Like, you can see that Reynor definitely didn't play crazy in the beginning, right? Like, okay, I hope he doesn't commit with a shade because I'm trying to be extra greedy. Like, if anything, he was even slightly low on the drone count, and he overly, well, maybe not overly respected because you really have to respect the adepts, but he definitely played it safe. But then from moment, like 6 minutes into the game, he's like, all right, this is finally fine, right? I'm okay. I'm out of the, I'm clear. And then you just see that drone count just spike up immediately. It goes from 40 to 80 in almost no time. While during all of that, he was active with Zerglings. He kept track of the Warp Prism. He kept track of the production. And that's what I love about Reynor. If he knows that he's good to go, he will never look back, and he will just make sure that he gets to that economic sweet spot where he wants to be in to justify the crazy fights and the run buys that he likes to go for as well. It's just really well done.
Very decisive, for sure. I don't think we should forget that, like, yeah, they did start off with the Adepts, but that also was the game where we were like, oh, that fourth base probably should have died. Reynor kind of got away with the mass amount of drones he made after the Adepts. He got 75, and I thought that was going to be at the cost of his fourth. Actually kept it alive, so...
Yeah, especially because that started off with those sweet force fields by PartinG, where he only spent like 3 or 4 force fields in total to get 3 queens with a lot of energy and the Ravager. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that part, because I was like, okay, Reynor's in trouble here. But yeah, it's like you said, we see everything, PartinG does it, and maybe PartinG just looked at that like, hey, that went pretty good, I can go back home now. And Reynor is like, whoo, dodged the bullet there.
Yeah, exactly. Because if it was only 60 drones, then I would actually think that was fine. But it was 75, totally ready to use that fourth base and even a fifth. So maybe the start of not the end of the game, certainly, but just the start of Reynor being able to explode in supply and positioning. So really nice stuff. Moving on to Golden Wall. So there's a lot of things that can happen in this matchup.
Yeah, I think PartinG against Reynor Golden Wall, I don't think we should make any predictions. I think this is like, all right, buckle up and let's enjoy the ride, because it's probably going to be a little different than the majority of the PVZs we see on this map. But to be honest, I don't see that many super high-level PVZs on this map. And when I do, I often feel like the Protoss players try to get a little crazy, right? They go mass air, carriers are being made. I don't know if we can expect that from PartinG. I feel that PartinG, if he has the choice ever between a Stalker and a Carrier, he will go for the Stalker. He's like, no, I can do more with this.
Yeah, well, I think he's right. Carriers are a little bit...
No, Carriers are not that bad, I promise.
Okay, all right.
I'm a fan.
In the bottom left, up 2-1, he's the blue Zerg, Reynor.
And on the right side of Golden Wall, look at the main base of the Korean Protoss, who is in trouble. In TSL 5, his tournament life is officially on the line right now. It is PartinG.
Yeah, Golden Wall. I agree. I don't see too many high-level ZVPs on this map. It is a lot of ZVTs. Like, yeah. I really just am only thinking about ZVTs right now, not ZVZs, maybe TVTs as well. But yeah, not so much for the Protoss here. And when it is, I'm with you. Carriers, weird stuff happens. But PartinG, not going to be a carrier guy, not cannon rushing, not being that guy either this game. I am once again feeling confident for Reynor's macro. I said at the beginning of last game, ended up being pretty right. So
he fixed it.
That's also
I do like this,
Kilo.
right? PartinG is using. Sorry, Jed, but I love how he's using his reputation, and then he takes a very suspicious path with his probe, and he's like, ah, and then Reynor's like, oh no, and he pulls a couple of drones immediately, and PartinG's like, I got you.
Yeah, Reynor taking it as seriously as he can without actually like over defending. But yeah, I'm just gonna say TLO's prediction's also looking pretty good right now, and they're so in tune with mine, man. So. No actual cannon rush. Sorry, Reynor. He is serious about it, though. He's like, I know you can do later ones.
yeah.
I mean, up this ramp.
Yeah, the one on Simulacrum was quite late, right? Because it was Gateway, it was Forge, and then suddenly it's like, bam, bam, like 4 pylons go up. You're like, what? Is this real? It's like, yeah, it's pretty real. Cannons and batteries are serious. But this time on Golden Wall, we are not going to see it. Wonder what that's going to be for. Is it going to be a Twilight once again? Or are we finally going to see our first real Stargate opener? And obviously not taking the one-base Stargate openers into consideration, because those don't count.
Yeah, he did go for a Gateway Warp Gate, or rather, Adept Warp Gate. So I was expecting a Twilight Council. Could just go for a later Stargate and try and trick out Reynor here.
No, Twilight it is. I think that makes sense.
I mean, the question, it might not just be Adepts, though. We don't have any probes being taken out of gas.
Could be DTs, could be Archons, could be Warp Prism.
Yes.
And with PartinG, it could be straight Blink. You never know. Nah, that'd be very weird, but we'll see. There's the Robo. It could very well be an Archon opening, right?
I think it is.
DTs.
For the most part, what I've seen is like you either take 2 probes out of gas, for Adepts, or all of them if it's like a charge all in. And if you don't do any, then it's going to go into the Archon drop. And DTs have really been back into play as the go-to Templars for the drop.
Yeah, because every now and then you still get lucky. Zerg players get a little greedy. Overseer isn't there. Spore Crawler is not up yet. And obviously, if your Dark Templars can ever snipe a hatchery, well, that's something that every Protoss player will sign for. And, worst comes to worst, you'll always force out a couple of drones. And the good thing is, once you have a Dark Shrine, you'll be able to utilize that for the rest of the game. And especially against someone like Reynor, I think that's very nice, because we know that Reynor loves to be annoying with run-bys, loves to make a lot of Zerglings and put them on hold position in your mineral lines. Well, if you're able to warp in a couple of DTs, then that's a quick and easy way to deal with that kind of stuff. So having a Dark Shrine, I think, is always sweet.
Mm-hmm. It's also playing a little bit into Reynor having to be wary that it's Adepts. You're starting to take off the things that it's not. So Stargates now, had to kind of the question. Now it's going to be either Adepts or Archons, realistically. Those are the 2 options.
Does he get
He's
that
going to go ahead and dedicate to this. Yes, he does. Not a scout, though, but the Overlord's now not
that's
snipable,
nice.
So
yeah, exactly. And now you force him to warp in one more Stalker as well. Now, obviously, PartinG likes Stalkers later on, too. But that's still kind of nice, because this throws PartinG's build order off a little bit, because that's 50 gas that he normally doesn't spend.
Mm-hmm. I also think that it was maybe an opportunity for DTs to do damage, but now that it's been fully scouted, because Reynor was delaying his lair, and he was only grabbing 1 Spore Crawler, so the 3rd base could have been under fire, but funnily enough, his original Spore Crawler is exactly where it should be, so no damage.
Well, Spore Crawlers still die very quickly. You need to pull drones here, I think, to block the path of those Dark Templars. What? Okay, he waited so long with that, but that's a good fight as well for the DTs. This is going to get really exciting. Okay.
That was awkward. Yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense, because the second queen was on the way.
Yeah.
That was awkward.
Man, I got so worried for Reynor, because at first he didn't you didn't even have to fight, right, with the drones. You can just put them on hold position to make it a little bit harder. I was like, they're getting close towards that Spore Crawler. Then suddenly the Ds are like, well, cool, if you can fight drones, we'll do that too. And I was like, okay, that's really dangerous too, actually. Everything is dangerous here for Reynor, but in the end, he salvaged the situation very nicely. Where is that War Prism Arcades here? To bring those Archons there, because those Archons will never fit through that choke. There's no way.
Yeah, no, they won't. Well, Reynor, by completely pushing back the drop, has really made up for the little gaff there by having to pull his drones and lose some. It could have been an absolutely perfect defense. It could have been a disaster if he did not save the Spore Crawler, and it ends up being pretty darn good. He gets so much time not having to deal with the Archons to collect his queens together, follow it around with creep spread, and choose his options, which in this game actually is a faster Spire. Every time we've seen it, it's been for Corruptors, and maybe he's just anticipating Corruptors, but with such a faster Spire, I'm kind of feeling like the initial 7 like Mutas. But
yeah, no, I think Mutas make sense here. Don't forget there's no Stargate on the map either, right? Like this was the Archon opening, so I think going for Mutas here is pretty nice. Now, obviously, if Blink Stalkers are out and +1 upgrades are out, PartinG should absolutely be able to deal with Mutas, but I'm with you. I feel like this is more of a Muta Spire than a Corrupted Spire.
It's the only thing I was going to be worried about, is that the Blink Stalker attack with +1 Blink like might just hit at that awkward time, or the Mutas, aren't quite worth the investment type deal, but I actually think it'll be okay here. The Mutas will pop out probably in the main base before PartinG's really ready to move out, and then Reynor will have, enough creep spread to warn him and build up the Ravager count, specifically with his Baneling Nest only just being started. We'll see what his decision is. He's probably aware of the +1 timing.
It's kind of cool that PartinG took the gold, by the way, right? Not something we really spoke about yet, but I'm curious to see how that really plays out. It's going to give him a lot of gateways, that's for sure, but he isn't the Zerg or the kind of Protoss that loves an insane amount of Zealots. Like, we haven't seen Charge being researched even once. But, having a gold doesn't mean you're forced to build Zealots all of a sudden. You can also just have a couple of extra static defenses because you have slightly more money to work with. And then you can still have an insane amount of gateways and stalkers, and that seems to be the case. Like, okay, so this is kind of what you were talking about, and something that I was worried about as well for Reynor. It's like, okay, you have Mutas, but do you think that PartinG turns around? I don't think PartinG is going to turn around. I think he'll warp in a couple of defensive stalkers and let those deal with the Mutas, and then just mostly focus on this army that's out on the map. And if Reynor loses his 4th base on the left top side, or even worse, his 3rd, then these Mutas did absolutely not pay off.
Yeah, the 4th might be okay giving up, but the 3rd, I'm with you.
By the way. It's only 3. That's actually sick by Reynor. He only made 3 Mutas, which obviously means he's going to have a lot of Roaches and Ravages here, and should have some Banelings as well.
Yeah, he does, but they don't have Baneling speed and are rarely on creep. They're actually going into the Archons, which take the fights. Most of the Banelings now gone, and War Prism still available. A couple force fields, more than a couple still available too. And Reynor, he's still having trouble defending this 3rd base with the force field potential that is here.
Yep, now the first drones start falling down as well. There are a level of Ravages, but the Ravages are so far away from the War Prism. It's not like this War Prism is ever going to go down. The Queens are really starting to run out of energy, and they have started to go down one by one as well. Finally, the sentries are exposed, and maybe this is Reynor's moment, but I feel like Reynor doesn't have much left besides this.
By taking out all the force fields, I think the opportunities are now here again with Lings flooding through. They have that upgrade. Roaches finally have speed as well. A couple more Banelings trying to help out, and just enough units not being sniped by these Stalkers, but that number continues to grow. Reynor really needs to start spending his money. Actually, a bit of a larva problem. He's trying to build Queens just to spend his minerals right now.
Yeah, like a Link flood would be fantastic, but he has like 8 Circlings out on the map, so it pretty much comes down to these Ravages. PartinG is confident enough to blink forward and get right on top of all these Ravages. These Ravages fall quite quickly, and sure, PartinG lost a couple of Stalkers in the process, but it seems like it was good enough, and we are heading to Game 5. As PartinG, just in the end, picks up a pretty easy win on Golden Wall.
Yeah. Muta is absolutely not worth it, but also just, this was definitely one of those games where you're like, man, if I had 600 more minerals worth of Lings, like from the get-go, constantly positioning back and forth, does that actually look like that? It just doesn't feel good to have money in the bank when you have to tap out of a game. But PartinG really utilizing that positioning. I was actually worried that him repositioning like he was doing was going to give Reynor too much time, but ended up being the position was the definitely a key to that success. So well done. Muta's not being the best option there, and we get to that match point, which I predicted, by the way. I just have to hope that Reynor wins this one.
I like that Reynor only made 3 Mutas, because they did get damage done immediately, But even 3 mutas and Aspire, that's still quite a few resources, right? You're talking about 1,000 resources. And I think that Reynor really was hoping that PartinG would be a little more indecisive, maybe turn around, even if it's just for a split second, right? Like 5 or 10 seconds of that army running back and then like, no, we're still going to attack. That could have been enough for Reynor to be in a better position, to have slightly more creep to work with, to buy more time with Corrosive Vials. I mean, StarCraft is a very volatile game, especially in moments like that, but PartinG is like, nope, I'm moving out. You might be able to get a couple of probes, and those 3 mutas did get 5-6 probes. PartinG is like, it's not about the mutas, it's about my main army. And it feels like every single time you look at these armies, when they stare at each other, it starts off with PartinG immediately getting those queens. And I feel like that's such a nice way to start a fight as a Protoss player.
Right, those queens, they had a lot of transfuse. There's a decent number of them too. Like, they were an investment that didn't end up really paying off. The other thing is that those Archons, like, there might have been something also about like, oh, it's not going to be as powerful of a push because you started off with Archons that kind of failed, right? VTs didn't do as much as they could have. And then the Archons, there was not a lot of follow-up with the Archons. But that didn't end up really mattering. PartinG's macro on the actual build point, the +1 attack with Blink, was still very powerful. And that's how it goes. Maybe more Lings could have made the difference, or just not letting him get into that position that he did, using the 3rd hatchery against the Zerg. Now that's a real Wings of Liberty thing.
I love the forwards Blink. Games, like, there's a lot of Protoss players out there that would always be like, okay, I still have Blink and I'm gonna try to save every single Stalker because you never know. I always love the confident forward Blink. Is like, here we go, just get on top of that army. And obviously, like, at that point, PartinG just knows. He's like, nope, he doesn't have enough anymore. It's like you said as well, if all that money that Reynor was sitting on, or even instead of those 3 extra queens he built, he does have those 20, 40 extra Zerglings. They get a wrap around the Stalkers. Stalkers can suddenly start falling very quickly as well. But I think it's just the pace of PartinG makes it hard to always be able to have that. And especially because those queens were just kind of walking around all the time. They maybe weren't hitting the injects that you're hoping for.
It might have been. I also didn't catch to see if he was able to get a macro hatchery. Obviously, the 4th base never was able to provide larva before the game ended. And I agree, I like that decisive Blink, because there's definitely games where it gets a little bit awkward. They really are just waiting for 20 larvae to pop, and suddenly there's 40 and more Lings with a drone pool and broodlings, because you snipe the hatchery and you kind of regret not just immediately ending it. So PartinG knows how to end games, that's for sure. He's got a killer instinct. It's game 5
on Zen. Yeah, like, that's like, okay, we've seen Zen quite a few times. Obviously at IM Katowice, a couple of very important PvZs were played on this map, and a lot of Protoss players have said like, Zen is actually not that bad. Zen is a Protoss map if you just like get through the weird stuff that could potentially happen early on. Now, Reynor is not a very weird Zerg, but PartinG is a weird Protoss. And obviously what goes for Zerg being able to be weird early on also goes for Protoss on this map. So I'm really excited and I can't wait to see how this one plays out.
Protoss favored map. I haven't heard such words uttered yet, but I do get the point. The bottom left has the red Protoss. He is PartinG.
The right top side, we're looking in the main base of the Italian Zerg. Representing Clash, it is Reynor.
Right, so I'm with you. Reynor's not the type to go for proxy hatches or early pools, which Protoss have had. Like, the first step to Zen is is able to deal with early pools, because everyone thinks about it immediately. But later on, one thing I do think is quite scary for the Zerg is those Adepts coming through the middle of the map as quickly as they can. Zen being our shortest map, if you can get through these mineral patches, if you have ultras, that's not going to happen. But Adepts, Lings, drones, yep, shortest map in the map pool.
I feel I rarely see ultras ever on this map, especially in this matchup. I mean, they're already somewhat uncommon. We saw them, of course, on Eternal, but yeah, if we see ultras here, I'd be properly shocked. It would be very cool. Can't really recall the last time I saw ultras in a professional high-level CVP on Zen.
I was just thinking of the biggest unit possible. I could have gone with the Thor as well, I guess. What else do we have? Colossus can step over it, so they don't really count, you know? So they get really bugged out in this map, though. We're talking about bug out the Golden Wall.
Colossus always start dancing in the middle. I don't know why. Yeah. Just like, it's like, no, just follow the rest of the army. And they're like, look at my moves. I can dance all day. It's like, no, stay with the army.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that PartinG, out of all the maps, that this is the one where he's like, no, we're just gonna play normal. We'll just go for engage, fast expand. Maybe he had his fun with the cannons early on, but he's like, nah, it seems like he's getting better against it, and I don't want to lose my entire series by going for cannon rushes. This is it, man. It's such a big series, right? I don't think anybody would have predicted TSL 5, either Reynor or PartinG is going to be eliminated in lower bracket round 1. This is kind of a crazy call to make, but here we are.
Considering both of their performances recently, for sure. Yep. PartinG maybe 6 months ago, I'd be like, yeah, totally. But no, not in the recent months, especially.
Yeah, I felt PartinG was a bit discredited, though. Like, even when he was clearly already getting very good, people were like, PartinG is just a memer. He's a streamer. He beats up on Americans on the North American server. It's like, no, that's not the only thing he's doing, because this is not the first good GSL run he's had. Like, even before, he had a couple of decent performances already against, like, the best players in the world.
Mm-hmm. He's certainly one of the players that got back fastest, where some of our other guys coming back from either military service or what else have you, not quite up to the same increase in skill. The Stalker did not get the block there, so the full scout goes in, even sees the Dark Shrine. I think PartinG didn't realize the Ling was still there. Trying to be tricky with the Dark Shrine placement, but didn't work out, so... Again, that whole, like, okay, I know it's on a Stargate, but hey, which one is it, Adepts or DTs? Very nice for Reynor to be able to see. I mean, around the same time, even faster, actually, than last game, so you would consider the defense even better.
Yeah, last game it got a little scary, got a little exciting, but in the end it actually turned out pretty good for Reynor, because I think you made an excellent point about not having to worry about that Bar Prism anymore. It's like, okay, PartinG recalls, he saved the Archons, no big deal, right? Like, well, it's kind of a big deal normally, because you're supposed to keep up the pressure. You're supposed to pick off a couple of Zerglings here and there, maybe get lucky and get a Queen or get a few drones. If those Archons get recalled home, it means that Zerg is clear for at least like another 30-40 seconds. And that's often all that these kind of Zerg players need to get themselves in a good position. In the end, it wasn't enough for Reynor. Let's see how the DT phase plays out this time. Reynor again making a couple of early links and sending them to the other side of the map. Wants to, I guess, prevent PartinG from going up to 3 bases quickly. Or once again, just get that Stalker kill. He loves killing this Stalker.
Right? Immediately slapping down 2 pylons won't save the Stalker, but it will save his mineral line. The Spore Crawler is going to be targeted down. No! Actually, I thought he was going to go for it, but decides not to. 4 Queens and Lings were being built.
Wow, Shadow Strike. Shadow Strike!
Oh, no way!
Yeah, that's actually very cool, but his Cyber Core is very exposed, and that means it's going to go down. PartinG is going to rebuild it. PartinG needs to wipe in a unit defensively, and he finally will. Hey, losing a Cyber Core is never nice. Reynor thought about getting the second one there as well. Wow, this is... What is he gonna do with this? What?
He saw it. He saw it researching. The eyes go aflame. One of the coolest like additions in Legacy of the Void was the graphics for this upgrade, man. That is pretty noticeable, but only if you're thinking about it, right? Like, as noticeable as that is, the same thing happens with Tunneling Claws. Like, duh, of course they have Tunneling Claws graphics, but you don't think of it if you don't expect it. Like, what if he doesn't expect this, but even if... Regardless of expectations, what does this actually mean for the attack? Is he going to go pure DTs and just blink on a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen Lings?
I mean, like, at this point, if you're Reynor, you gotta be like, this is kind of weird. Why are 6 Dark Templars running around in the middle of the map? That's slightly more... I have no idea. I find this so crazy by PartinG. I mean, I know PartinG is like the god of crazy Protoss builds, but there's no way that you defeat a world-class Zerg player like Reynor by just making a lot of Dark Templars and blinking at... Oh, he's gonna go for the classic. He goes for the snipe of the lair in the main base. This is BlizzCon all over again. Sorry, guys, spoiler alert, but it was an amazing game and it's a long time ago.
I think 7 months is fine, Roddy. But you're absolutely right. He's going to go for the main base, either grab... I mean, he's going to be able to grab the ability to make more Overseers, so now you can start pressuring in more than one place. He's going to grab an actual hatchery that is mining still for a very long time. However, Reynor does have some units here. Spore Crawler is going to be taken out immediately, of course. But that might have bought enough time for the Overseer to get here. He's going to dive on top of the lair, but that's not worth it.
PartinG, why did you go for the... What? Why did he go for the Spore? He should have just gone for the lair, right? It's not about the Spore. Of course it's going to be Overseers.
I guess he was hoping the Overseer would be around the 3rd base, right? But luckily, Reynor was already repositioning. Like, I agree. He should have gone for the lair, because at the very least, you can say, okay, I might not have gotten the ability to make Spore Overseers, but I got a hatchery kill. Now it's nothing. He's even losing more DTs. War Prism gets very, very low, and DT Blink is just not going to be helpful the longer the game goes.
And it's a bad fight as well on the left side, because those force fields, they were not good enough to save any of those Protoss units, and it means now that these Zerglings are going for the Nexus, at least I thought. This is not good. You look at the supply counts and you're like, oh man, what has happened in this game? The War Prism went down against the Queens on the other side of the map with 3 Dark Templars inside of it, and that is going to be it. Reynor takes the series 3-2. I'm happy for Reynor, a bit sad for PartinG, but it's also I'm sad about what could have been, right? Because this could have been awesome. This could have been epic. This could have been us all reliving the global finals last year. But this is kind of how things go. When people are like, hey, Roddy, can you please do like Blink TT and snipe into the main? I'm like, yeah. And then like, it never works for me. I'm like, mixed feelings in the end. Just mixed feelings.
A lot of things have to line up well for that build to work. It worked on the grand stage, yes, but that is a very, very rare occurrence. Kudos to Reynor for holding against all the weird things that PartinG was able to throw at him, all those can rushes as well. Never saw the Immortal juggle, but we still saw a lot of what PartinG is known for in the Blink Stalkers and just general weirdness. He was able to still win 3-2, so my score is exactly correct. I am feeling so good compared to last weekend, man. God, I'm already 3/5 of the way there. You're welcome, TLO.
I also love how Dario believed in you and did not believe in me. Like it's like, oh, it's all right, Dario. I'll take notes and I'll remember this for the future.
Yeah, exactly. I know what I'm talking about next time I cast you. Yeah.
We stand as one.
Are you gonna give me orders?